everybody? We're live today, Friday, TGIF. I'm wearing tie-dye Friday, and I see David's wearing a nice black T-shirt, and that represents part of what we're actually going to be ranting about today, because I find it extremely interesting as well, because I'm sort of more of the racy of the two of us, I think, and I think I go a little more off topic than on topic, but again, the question that David's going to try and keep on point with. It used to be unisex clothing. Now it's become gender neutral clothing. Why? David, I'm going to give us 10 seconds for us to catch our breath. And I'm going to let you start this one off, David, and I'll just jump on it.
Hey everybody, David Solomon back here with Stuart Brisgell. And folks, I got to tell you, one of the things that's fascinating to me is when I look at what's going on out there, how the world has changed dramatically. When I was a kid, Stuart, when we were kids and you wanted to pick on a kid, you dealt with their gender, their sexual orientation.
I never picked on anyone, David. I was a good kid.
No. But I was bullied and picked on, and those were the terms that were used. And in today's day and age, no, you can't do that. It's totally different. It's fascinating to watch. And kudos in the world that we're in, that our sensitivity level towards other people's decisions, choices, whatever, have changed. But now I'm going to challenge this one. So when my wife showed me that Old Navy had this whole thing about gender neutral clothing, I went, what does that mean? Wasn't that called unisex 5 minutes ago? And no, I was corrected. It's not unisex. It's gender neutral. What? And I'm not sure what that means. What do you mean by gender neutral? Isn't the same thing? I said, no. Unisex refers to a gender, and gender neutral just means there's a neutrality behind it. So we gave it a label. And because we gave it a label, it has a different connotation. Well, if that's the case, folks, then I've got a very serious problem with the way this is being handled. And let me start with the first thing. The first thing is, what is this gender neutral business is? Look at what Stuart and I are wearing today. He didn't even realize I'm going here, but he brought it up. What makes what I'm wearing and what he's wearing, the other way, and what he's wearing gender-based? Nothing. Other than the fact that I picked this up in a men's department. He must have picked up his T-shirt in a men's department because that's what it was labeled. It was labeled the men's department. It has my size. I'm a large. Stuart, I don't know what you are. I don't need to share that with the rest of the public. But at the end of the day, there was a label put on it that was clear enough for me to understand what it was going to be, find my size, go make my purchase. But at the end of the day, this it's not a ladies or a men's, or it's a black T-shirt. What's happened is that the notion of like this gender neutral clothing, to me, I understand you want to think we're addressing a need in the market. What we're actually doing is not that. It's retailers trying to pretend that they're really woke, that they're really cool, and that they're like, hey, guys, you don't understand. Not only are we woke and liberal and cool, but we're actually, attending to your requirements. And frankly, I think that's bogus to the nth degree. And here's another reason why. Actually. When I looked into it, it said gender neutral clothing, but it's based on men's sizes. So wait a minute. If I'm 4'11" with female parts, or I'm a 6'6" with the male parts, like what you're telling me No, this doesn't work, people. If you're gonna go with gender neutral clothing, your size runs don't make sense to me. You're now basing it on men. Why? Because it's formless? Come on. To me, I think that what these retailers have done, Stuart, is taken this marketing approach and saying, we're going to make more money. We'll switch the name from unisex to gender neutral. And we're just going to put it out there with men's sizes because it's formless and it will fit and it's perfect. Frankly, shame on Old Navy and Target and all the rest of those folks But what you've done is taking advantage of the market. Stuart, I pass you the ball, bud. What do you think?
I'm just putting in here Old Navy. I'm just trying to keep track of everything you talked about. First of all, I like giving a bit of history, and instead of like ranting about it, I kind of threw it in there. First of all, you got to understand that it's unisex based clothing. That is the terminology that's been accustomed to in our markets and our worlds. And, it's been around, first used in 1968, and it's to describe, right? A group of non-gender. Well, now it's non-binary. Actually, David, you're out of touch. It's not genderless, it's non-binary. But unfortunately, we talk about non-binary, it is binary. It's based off of something. It's based off of men's clothing. So are we saying by virtue it's based off of men's clothing that most gender neutral people are therefore men? And that most men gender neutrals who want to identify are men, not women. And I think that's a false statement. I think the concept is utterly absurd. And I think companies are just trying to monetize on a marketing campaign that is just utterly nonsense. We all go to gym class, right? And in gym class, men and women, when I and you were both going to high school, we wore the same gray t-shirt and the same blue pants, or whether it's blue and gray or orange and green. It's irrelevant. Every gym student wore the same thing. Men went to the men's locker room. Women went to the women's locker room. And yes, David, I'm bringing up, there is now something called a genderless bathroom. Right?
That's not what is this relevant to this conversation? Come on, come on.
I know. I'm staying focused. So we're trying to talk about, there's a funny SNL skit, right? Which talks about Levi's, the woke Levi's. It's utterly absurd. If you want to make fashion and try and sell something, make fashion and try and sell something. What is gender neutral? I would not want to wear a mini skirt and have my schlong hang out. It's something that a woman wouldn't have to deal with. Yes, David, I'm asserting that my schlong will hang below a miniskirt. What kind of nonsense am I talking about? Fact is, this whole gender neutral is another insane movement to take our focus away from today's reality, right? I don't care if you identify with a man or a woman. I don't care. It doesn't affect my day. If your brain thinks you're this, great, enjoy. Why do I have to reinvent the entire world for less than 0.02% of the population?
Okay, but we're not talking, but you don't have, you see, the thing is that it's not, okay, I get what you're saying here. And then whether or not, you agree or disagree with gender neutrality or whatever, really wasn't my point for this rant. My point for this rant was either retail goes all the way, does it right, or doesn't. And stop BSing everybody.
I agree. Listen, Gucci, listen, Gucci, right? Louis Vuitton, Chanel. I mean, they've had men's lines and they've gone in. They've been rather more feminine, or they'd like to say fashion forward, but they never called it gender neutral.
But you know what the problem is? Right, but the problem is this. And I'm going to tell you what the problem is. And it isn't retail. It's our society today. And our society today still frowns upon what you and I wear if it doesn't meet a conformity. I don't care. On one hand, you push this whole notion of neutrality, take it or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, here's the issue. If you and I were to see, a man on the street wearing your proverbial mini skirt, as you just talked about, your first reaction might be, what a weirdo. Why? It's not conforming. It's non-conventional. Who cares at this point, folks, in society? The problem is that when I walk into a store, the label in the store determines who I am.
No, David,
hold on, store. Let me finish this point.
Okay.
The label in the store. So if I walk into a men's department to pick up men's pants, I must conform to that. But what about those who do not want to?
But you're forgetting the social justice behind this. The whole movement today is if you don't conform and agree with whatever, you're a racist.
But that's the hypocrisy.
And you're a bigot, and you're a bigot.
But that's the hypocrisy.
I agree. I agree that's the hypocrisy.
You cannot tell me conform, but be unique. Which is it? Because look, in truth, if I were to open up a store today, I would challenge retail and say, I don't have a men's and women's department. I have pants over here, shirts over here, dresses over here. I don't care who walks into what department. But you know what? That would upset the apple cart in society because I am being what? I mean,
racist. You're
not
racist.
racist. Not racist. No, this is not a race. This is not
exclusionist. You're exclusionist.
How am I exclusionist if
because you don't think they should do it? Listen, I don't care. Listen, I choose to spend my money where I choose to spend it. Right. I don't need to be lectured on. I'm sorry, sir. You need to go to the pant department. Great, I'll go to the pant department. But I mean, listen, if everything's going to follow men's clothing, then why don't we just call it all men's clothing?
Well, why don't we just call it clothing? What the hell do we need a term?
Why do we need? I want to see you wear that miniskirt. Guys, who wants to start a GoFundMe to raise $10 for David to wear a miniskirt?
Stuart, you got it. You see, you and your nutcase mentality. When I was in Tokyo 8 years ago, and I walked through parts of Tokyo, I mean, they were walking in with anime clothing. They were proudly displaying how they want to dress up. It's a form of individualism. And by the way, there was no men's department, women's department. You walked into the anime store and you can get whatever costume and makeup and whatever you want. And nobody cares, male, female here. In North America, in Western society, we are still holding on to these traditional notions. And by the way, folks, before you start wondering what's wrong with me, I'm not suggesting that we have to get rid of everything. I'm going the opposite. I'm tired of the label defining who I am. Because I'll tell you what's going to happen. When a parent takes a 5-year-old into a store and sees gender-neutral clothing, because that's what's available today, folks. What are you telling your child? Okay? The label is going to create additional confusion. I am completely against this whole notion of labeling. For God's sakes, folks, why don't we just stop with this BS labels? Because the conformity argument you just gave me is so idiotic. Either you are individuals or you want to follow society's trends. I don't care. But wearing this black t-shirt today makes me what? Nothing more than someone wearing a black t-shirt. Doesn't make me male, female, anything.
That's not true. If you're wearing a black t-shirt and you're wearing black pants and you're wearing a black hoodie, then that would be part of another movement.
No, it's actually not. That's the old school Stuart with stereotyping, and that's the problem.
Well, no, I'm talking about modern. No. I'm talking about what we just watched on politics.
It's not individualism. It's what you said is everybody must fit into a box. Everybody must.
The whole parochial school system with uniform. So the school systems today in the United States promote uniforms. Public school, private school.
A lot of schools do it. A lot of schools, not just the US.
Great. So there used to be a woman's dress code and a men's dress code. Sure. Now it's like all across the board. So I want to know how many private school boys are going to wear the dress or the romper to school next week.
As long as guys like you say it like that, they'll continue to hide. But you're suggesting,
David, I went to a school where there were guys wearing rompers, and I didn't care.
I want to tell you something. That's the problem. Is instead of us just dropping the stupid labels, we continue to put a label and then we judge. That's it. It's a judge. And we continue to give our everybody an ability to judge. You want to know what? Like we've talked on social media about just 2 days ago about bullying. The bullying is based on a label. The bullying is based on that you are different from me.
Another rant. Bullying's a rant all to itself, David.
But Stuart, here, I'm going to give you one final thought. Okay, one final thought to all this. We are not allowing anyone. We're not allowing people to promote their own individual voices. We are not. It's conform or you're my enemy. And you know what?
Correct. 100%.
That is, and when the Old Navies and the Targets of this world do that, put out, don't call it unisex because that's offensive. Call it gender neutral. Create a new label create a new department, create all these things. You've basically taken advantage of a situation to make more money. You haven't done it right. Okay, because if you're true to your word, you would have done it right. But in this case, you put a label on people, and because of that label, you're only making it worse in society.
David, and just so you know, I was just trying to argue with you just to see your blood pressure go up. And to be honest with you, you know what time it is?
You know what, Stuart, the time it is? It's time for us to say goodbye to everyone and have wish them a wonderful weekend. So, Stuart, because we just don't have enough controversy to talk about, what's the topic for Monday, Stuart?
You know, I've been working on this, and I think it's going to be, if Jay, you know, you agree, it has to do with church, state, and race theory. And you know what? I would like anyone who catches this broadcast as I type it in the box, you know, race theory is a big subject of conversation, controversial, been going on last couple of weeks, really headline material. But I also want to add in there church and state. You know, when we were going to school, it was the uproar about removing religion from school. Now they're removing gender from school. Now they want to put in their own what's called race theory. And I think Monday, David, we should talk all about church, state, and race theory, because I think there is a great rant there. What do you think?
I only think there's a great rant there. I think we have another problem on our hands. If the idea really goes with race theory is now replacing religious studies, you've basically replaced history with bias. I'm going to challenge anybody who says otherwise, because show me your text about race theory and then we could talk. Stuart, it's been great talking to you this week. By the way, a huge shout out to Howie Silberger and TrueTalkRadio.com. Howie Silberger loves our material. He is a Montreal radio personality here and has his own online talk show. And he has specifically asked me to rerun some of our rants on his show. So, folks, listen out for that. We really do appreciate, Howie, your input and everything else. And a shout out to everybody. And we love those shares. We see them on and on and on and on in Facebook. We love it. Keep sharing that with your friends. We are approaching 200 subscribers for a bunch of guys who just started this barely 2 months ago. So we love you. We want to wish you all a wonderful weekend. Have a great time. Stay well, stay safe. Monday, noon Eastern.